Do I have any apologies?
Afternoon, members. Thank you, Chairman. I have apologies from Councillor Brodie, Councillor Dick, and there are 15 members present.
Apologies from Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, sir.
Also, apologies from Councillor Cruthers Ian.
Thank you.
Do I have any declarations of interest? Just remind everyone that this meeting will be recorded and that the recording will subsequently be available for public listening. Go to item 3, a minute of the meeting of the 10th of June. Does it meet with your approval? Thank you. Yes, present this. Move to item 5, which is a 4. Sorry, I'm trying to be swift today. Just perhaps a little too swift. Okay, item 4, which is the Social Work Services Revenue Budget Outturn 2013-14. The report will be presented by Colin Pentland. Colin, do you wish to add anything to the report, or do you want to go straight to members' questions?
I've nothing to add, Chair, thank you, but I'm happy to answer any finance-related questions. Thank you.
Members? Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks very much, Chair. Not so much a question, more I think a kind of statement. I think this hasn't been an easy journey, as you know, and everyone knows it's taken 2 or more years to actually reach this situation. And I think we need to record the hard work of all the council staff and our NHS partners and third sector partners who've all been involved in bringing about, basically, I would suggest, the first budget for social work for many years that is as close to break-even as it could possibly ever be. So I think I'd like to formally record that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Ferguson, and I wholly agree with your sentiments there. I think it is a very, very positive report, and I think all social work staff need to be congratulated in bringing this budget into some sort of control. Councillor Scobie.
Chair, I don't know if it's wise to follow that last statement or indeed the one before that, because I think what we've got to look at is, while there may be congratulations in bringing a budget into something of a recognised 49,000 just of an overspend, I think we've got to look at the substance and the narrative both in 310 and 311. And that's in older people's services, underspend of 684,000. And again, in learning disabilities, where there's a 227,000 underspend. And it's to look at the underspend and whether indeed we are still providing a service to those people who need it, the vulnerable people within both those sectors. So it's that we are providing, in the document up above, it's that less people are using the service. But we still need to know, for those that are using the service, that they are being adequately provided for. And it's a service that is need-driven, and that those people are still not left out there in a vulnerable state and providing. So while on one hand it's easy to say, yeah, we're bringing our budget into line, but we've got to make sure equally that the services we are providing meets the needs of these people. And that's the point I would like to make, Chair.
Thank you for that.
Completely agree with what Councillor Scobie has said there. The priority for social work at all times is to meet the needs of the most vulnerable. And social work staff throughout the last year and even before last year have been trying to do that within the allocated budget. And I think that this is a massive piece of work, and social work staff should be congratulated on, because we have not put anybody at risk throughout this process.
Councillor Ferguson.
Can I just confirm what the Chief Social Officer said, that we placed no one at risk during this period? I think that needs to be recorded as well, and make it absolutely clear. Actually, some of the statements here actually take away all good work and all the goodwill that was actually garnered from the staff to actually move on this, because I would suggest that some of the things that Councillor Scobie was talking about there was more a statement rather than a question, right? And would have maybe been better placed in when you get to the business plan for next year.
Members, any other questions? Councillor Tuckfield.
It's not a question, just an observation. We cannot continue providing care the way we've been continuing over the years. And I think the main object of social work, when it's possible, is to try and keep someone at home. And some of these figures reflect that. That is the changing trend that we have.
Thank you for that. Any other members wish to speak? Can we move to recommendations? Noting 2.1 and 2.2. Thank you. If we now move to item 4, Social Work Services Budget 2014-15, report to be presented by Sean Barrett. Sean, do you want to add anything to this report, or are you wanting just to take questions?
Thanks, Chair. I'll just highlight a couple of changes to the ABB since members last seen it. The document now contains local benchmark and framework comparisons, and there's links in there to the national data sets and our family groupings to show how we're comparing to other authorities. This will be a challenging year. There's some significant policy changes and challenges which will impact on the budgets during the year and as we move ahead. The Public Bodies Joint Working Act, the Social Care SDS Act and the Children and Young People's Act. A couple of highlights, which I'm sure members are aware. The homelessness service is now no longer in social work services budget, so £1.3 million has been taken out and transferred to community and customer services. Some money has come in from children's integration budget from education of £800,000. This is an accounting and budgetary adjustment, not any impact on the operational side of things. It's just to remove recharges, etc. The budget has been increased, £568k of policy development funding for provider rate increases. There's £1.7 million of inflationary and demographic increase monies has been enhancing this budget this year. And there's also the agreed £1 million of savings which have been taken out of the budget. As before, members will be aware that approximately 22% of the expenditure budget is on staff costs, and the majority of the budget, over 75%, goes to our third-party independent and partner organisations in the commissioning of services, with over 50% of that sum is spent on over 65s. Social work also bring in quite a considerable amount of income. It's difficult though other than demographic increases, there's not much scope for increasing this income due to ability to pay and the monies we receive off the NHS. Thank you.
Members? Councillor McKee.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of things I'd like to ask on. On page 43, he mentioned kinship care and the Children and Young People's Bill. Is there any indications yet as to whether we're likely to get additional support, financial support, especially from the Scottish Government through this bill, or what changes are likely to be come forward? And the other question I've got is on page 51. Transport costs, where in this page it's children and families, and you're talking about almost £199,000 on transport costs. I would assume, obviously, there's families got to travel and things like that, and the social workers got to travel. Can we be assured that the likes of pool cars and that sort of thing are being, the use of them is being maximised? If you don't mind.
Yeah, if it's okay with you, Councillor, I will take your first question in relation to kinship care, and maybe Sean Bard will come in and keep me right. I think the first thing I should say is that the Children and Young Persons bill is no longer a bill, it's an act now. However, the kinship care part of that act is still has not become law, and it's still, I believe, about the second reading. At this minute in time, we're very unclear if that is going to come with any budget. Sean, I don't know if you want to add to that. So that's about as far as I can answer that, Councillor. And Sean will take the question about pool cars.
Thank you. The fuel charges is a mix of the pool car usage and private car use. There are constant reviews of high mileage users, so that there's a team in place who do review these mileages in conjunction with what's coming through payroll. And where someone's seen as a high mileage user, it's looked into, is pool car use available? Is there a better way of delivering this? And obviously to try and reduce the cost. So it is constantly reviewed, but it is mainly, as you can imagine, over the whole region. Social workers have to get out. It's mainly those kind of costs. But we do try to keep a close eye on it to make sure it's best value.
Councillor Maitland.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I've got quite a number of questions, and it might well be that I ought to ask the officer out with the committee. But one of the things which strikes me that I can't tell from the activity-based budgeting is to do with the use of spot and block contracts. I mean, I don't think I can tell anything very much from this, can I, with respect to that? And I think that's an issue that maybe possibly, Chairman, we ought to look at the use, whether we maximise the use of any block contracts that we have, because we seem to buy in both measures. That's one of the things I'd be interested in knowing. The other issue touches on what Councillor Scobie and Councillor Ferguson were mentioning earlier on. It's on page 59, where it is absolutely clear that we are reducing the numbers of people in receipt of home care, both home care and intensive home care. That's on page 59. But I want to reiterate again, it's absolutely right to do that. If we're talking about looking after the most vulnerable people, then a constant review of where we are applying our resources is absolutely correct. I think that then translates into the use of our block contracts and our spot contracts, and I'd just like at some stage maybe to have some sort of information as to the uptake of those parts, particular parts of how we commission our services.
Thanks, Councillor Maitland. The spot and block contracts isn't visible in this document. It's probably further. It's another further level down. If we put it all in at that level, it would be a much bigger document. We can identify what is block and what is spot. The service is on a journey of moving away from block contracts to spot, where it makes more sense to do that, and we don't lose out on unutilised hours or time. There's we've done a lot of good work and generated quite a few. One of the savings is relating to block contracts. So it's something that the service are constantly looking at. We probably still need to do quite a bit more. And I'm happy to discuss with you what further information you would benefit yourselves, or how we should take this forward as a service.
Could you receive some information to the committee? I think the committee would be interested in seeing that, Chairman, at some stage. I don't know how we would do it, possibly through the budget process, but I think we ought to have a look at how we're maximising the use of cash.
Yes, we'll arrange for that. Councillor Syme.
Thanks, Chair. It's just on page 46, page 47, the table's on there. For some time, members of the committee that have always had a thing about us having so many private agencies in Dumfries and Galloway, but I don't always feel we utilise them the best. We had a seminar about 2 or 3 years ago where we were meaning to engage with private providers within the region to look at how they could provide a service economically and fairly for this authority. We still have, when we see Falkirk mentioned here, I know establishments in Dumfries and Galloway that all their children come from Falkirk that they're dealing with. And I feel we need to look into it. I don't feel that we're always making use of these places. And when Councillor McKee was on about high mileage, within the cost of these, just then you've got the cost of the placements, you've got the cost of contact visits and social work visits to the likes of Aberdeen and Preston and places like that we've had in the past, which is quite a fair bit of money over the years. What I'd like to ask is, could we have a rundown on where the kids out of region and in private agency placements are and who's looking after them, whether they're in Aberdeen or elsewhere? Because I know at one time I did get the figures, but I haven't had up-to-date figures. But I know it is a big drain on resources, and I feel that we don't deal with local providers enough.
Okay. Councillor Simon, I will try and cover all of your points. I suppose the first thing I would say is that the number of children we have in out-of-region placements has been gradually dropping. That has been down to several developments within children and family social work. One of them has been the recent opening of Hawthorne Road, which is now fully operational. We are investing heavily in intensive foster parenting. We do also have officers who are interfacing with the private providers in our area to see what they can offer. Your point is well made about Falkirk, and part of the difficulty there is that we have so many providers that puts extra pressure on not so much social work services, but on police, on health, and on education. But it's an area that we look at. The other thing we need to keep in mind is that each time a child goes into a placement, social workers are trying to make sure that that is the placement that adequately meets the needs of that child. And then, as you're very much aware, the final decision maker on this will be the children's hearing. So once they put an order in, then we have to abide by that order. So, but it's ongoing work, Councillor Syme.
Could I just come back? Sean, you know, we do have a lot of accommodated children come over from other local authorities. As a local authority ourselves, and you know, we see ourselves as corporate parents. What role do we have in the protection of these kids that's coming in for other local authorities?
But just as I said there, Councillor, as a local authority, they have access to our education facilities. They have access to whatever the police can offer, and they have access to our health as well. Now, but the statutory order remains with the placing authority, and it's up to the placing authority to negotiate with the host authority what needs should be going in to meet that particular child's needs.
Yeah, just very quickly, Chair, because there has been times when there's been high risk young people brought into this authority from the placing authority. Do they have an obligement to tell us of that high risk, or can they bring young people who have maybe had sexual abuse or kind of high levels of bad behaviour, basically? Do we have a right to know about that?
The answer is yes, and the answer is no. Right? All placing authorities in Scotland are supposed to let the chief social work officer know that they are placing a child in that particular area. However, that does not always happen, and would not necessarily go into the sort of the nitty-gritty of why the child is being placed in our area as well. The other thing is we have very little control over authorities out of Scotland who also place in our area as well. So it's an ongoing piece of work, councillor. But when we place a child, we let the local authority know that child has been placed in that area.
Thanks, Sean.
Councillor Scobie?
Yeah, Chair, I'll address my remark to governance in the first issue, and I'm sure he can clarify, but nowhere have I seen in standing orders does it say that a member needs to ask a question. I just want clarification on that one, if indeed there is anything that says that a member needs to ask a question. I'll premise my remarks on that governance issue and get clarification on that one. My next point is to, again, the confidence in moving forward in terms of the budget, and to what Sean said to my earlier statement, in that I want to move forward with the confidence that we are able to deliver the services that people need, particularly those that are vulnerable. And it's page 42, I address this, children with disability, where in the second last paragraph, the penultimate paragraph, it says this is a service provided by social work staff, and goes on to say, with knowledge, expertise for young people with profound and complex disabilities. And into the number of social workers that we have in situ. Have we got those social work personnel in place and able to provide the very much complex and profound services these vulnerable young children require? So that's my first question, Chair. My next one is to placements, and we have an increased number of kids with autism that are diagnosed with autism or on the autistic spectrum. And again, a statement made by education that we are doing something about that. But what we're going to find is that there's going to be more, not perhaps child protection meetings or children's hearings, but what we will find is there will be an increase in the number of GIRFEC meetings, and that's getting it right for every child, where social work will provide the professional input, and there may be a further pressure on the budget in how the outcomes and response to those GIRFEC meetings as they are conducted. Have we got the resources, the financial resources and others, to respond to that particular issue? And I want to be able to say, yes, we have from the social work. My last point is to the reference to the kinship carers and the Act that's gone through, and we still don't know if we're going to meet that need. And I have really appreciated the support that I've got from yourself, Chair, on this. And I think that we are at a stage where we maybe need to consider, and I know that I've got your assurance in terms of working alongside me, is do we really need to get back to the whole issue of raising the kinship carer, because it is a pressure point on the budget, and it may be that we've got to look at cross-party lobby group that existed in the past, and if and when we could have that brought back.
She'll answer the first question and leave Sean to deal with the specifics in relation to the service. Clearly, this committee that looking at this item today is being asked to, in essence, agree the social work budget. It's in the committee's delegations, a number of bullet points in terms of to raise clarity and seek questions in relation to that. So ultimately, you can scrutinise the budget before you reach a decision in agreeing it. So quite clearly, more than appropriate, as has been happening throughout the meeting this afternoon, for there to be questions raised to enable you as members to take a full decision in terms of agreeing the budget. Thank you.
It was not the question.
Councillor Scobie?
Yeah, I asked the governance to direct me to in standing orders where a member needs to ask a question. I have raised this with the governance officer. There is nothing in standing orders to say a member needs to speak and conclude on a question or other. A member can make a statement. That was my question in terms of our standing orders. Nothing says that a member must ask a question. Absolutely nothing in it. And I just want clarification so that people are clear. I don't know how many times this has come up from people that should know better.
No, thank you for the clarity, Councillor Scobie. I'm not aware of there being any issue around the matter. I think standing orders are known to all members. They're set by the Council. They're reviewed regularly. And for the nature of the report, it's more than appropriate and acknowledged that members will choose to raise questions and to fulfil a scrutiny role, and officers will be held to account on that basis. Where there is more information sought that's not available, there is a clear commitment to ensure that information is made available either to all members of the Council, all members of a committee, or indeed individual ward members, or indeed even ward individual members. Thank you, Chairman.
Sean, yeah, you could address Councillor Scobie's questions.
Just to try and refresh, Councillor Scobie, I think's question was, do we have enough resources to meet the increasing needs with children with disabilities? At present, as indicated in the report, we have 6 dedicated social workers who work in this particular area. With the advance of medical science, we have to say that this group of kids, they're living longer as well. There's more kids in this area who are surviving on from birth. As indicated in the report, that we are working very, very closely with our health colleagues in this area as well. Now, when, and it hasn't been brought to my attention, but when the demand becomes too much for those 6 social workers, what will happen was they will go to their other colleagues and children and families and ask them to become involved. We've also identified a major area around transitions for these kids when they're going 15, 16, 17 and moving into adulthood, and that's why we have been working very closely with adult care social work as well. To sum up, we are meeting the demand. Going forward, I think that will have to be a debate for the new Chief Social Work Officer.
I don't think the question I asked in terms of the increased demand under GIRFIC and indeed the kinship care and how we take that forward to still remain to be answered.
Sorry, Councillor Scobie. In relation to GIRFIC, we have the named person, and it's up to the named person to look at what resources need to go in to support that child. It may be social work resources need to go in, but that doesn't necessarily say social work would take responsibility for the case. In relation to kinship care, could you refresh my point, Willie? Sorry.
It's known that that is a pressure point on the budget and an increased pressure point in the budget, and in no way am I asking that that be decreased, but it's how we deal with that, and it's maybe not one for you as an officer, but more for the elected members in terms of moving that forward. How do we get that point over to central government, the Scottish Government, that more resources is required, because it's one that has not been taken full account of in terms of Dumfries and Galloway in what has been an almost threefold and higher number of kinship carers that are in this region.
I think, as you indicated earlier, Councillor Scobie, we've had some discussions on this, and I'm committed to working with you to actually try and do something. Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks, Chair. It's just a question here. It's page 95, top of the box. I can understand this because according to this is a payment from us to the NHS to prevent delayed discharge. So I'm assuming that's us paying them so that we can clear their beds in time. Is that right?
This is a historical payment, which it's almost a... The Scottish Government used to give health the money directly, and then a number of years ago there was a change in the way the settlement ended up, so the money passported over to ourselves. So in effect, we've got it now in our GAA settlement, and at the time it was agreed with health that we would just passport it over to health.
So can I come back in, Chair? Yeah. So does that mean then that the money they get to stop bed blocking is over and above this 693k? So we're effectively, maybe we could be paying them twice. Just because it's historical, does that mean we should be actually carrying it forward in the future?
It does go back a number of years. I don't know what else they get for delayed discharges or bed blocking, as you say. This was one that wasn't our money. We were just holding it for them. So it was agreed a number of years ago between the two organisations that would just be a straight transfer over. As part of integration, it probably nullifies itself. So it's maybe one which we should pick up as we move into integration.
Okay, I've just come back then. So currently there's no legal obligation to hand this over. It's like a gentleman's agreement from the past. Is that what we're saying?
I couldn't say that. I don't know if it's a gentleman's agreement. It's just always happened. I dare say if somebody wanted to troublemaker, they may want to unpick that and look a bit further into that. I do think though we should leave it for integration to come out.
Can I come back in, Chair? Yeah, it's just that 693k would spend is a lot of spend that could be used for things like kinship care, things like the children with disabilities, and stop and overspend. So if we're just doing it because it's an agreement we've had from the past, I can't see the benefit to the council preventing the beds being blocked at the DNGRI.
I'm probably struggling to take this one any further, Councillor Ferguson. It was a historical agreement. It wasn't really our money in the first place, and it's almost just an accounting settlement issue that we passported it over. But I can look into the history of it and try and delve a bit more on this. But I'm sure my predecessors have looked into that in the past.
Councillor Maitland.
Thank you. There are questions I'd like to ask. First of all, Sean, I noticed that we don't appear to have the information on workstations, which, if we are considering agile working and knowing what we need with respect to property and deciding on the budget with respect to property costs, we ought to know how many workstations are needed. And it's not here. Part of it, the adult disabilities and mental health put their workstations in, but the other parts of the service don't, and I think they should. Second question with respect to the budget is about fixed costs. There is an issue on page 61 talking about a delivery of home care costs per hour. A significant proportion of costs are fixed. This is with respect, presumably, to DG First's production of, well, I mean, I think we need to look at that. You can't simply just go on paying a reduced number of hours for home care and carrying a fixed cost level. We need to look at that, I would suggest. I think we need to consider that. And there's another fixed cost issue with respect to the looked after children in a community setting. The numbers have reduced, and yet that again is being looked at as a fixed cost. I think we should consider that too. That's on page 48, Chairman. We're being asked to look at continuing on with a budget with a reduction of variable costs, but carrying on with the fixed costs. And I think we should have a look at that. I would like to see that come through when we examine proposals for the budgets and for changes next year. I think that should go through the budget system. And finally, on page 68, I think it is, yes, there's a big jump in the key outputs in terms of assessment and fieldwork for adult services, physical and sensory disabilities. Ostensibly, these figures appear to have gone up from 414 to 503. Is that realistic? Is that a realistic figure to continue with our budgets, having got that jump? We're going to find ourselves with a big variance later on. It's much better to know now, if you see what I mean.
Thanks, Councillor Maitland. I'll look in. We were getting quite a bit of difficulty getting the workstation information for the ABB book. I'll see where we are with it and how we can take that forward and bring that information back. Review of fixed costs in DG First. DG First is part of their budget bringing forward. We'll consider that. There is, unfortunately, and if we move staff away from zero contract hours, etc., and put them on contract, there will be an element of cost that we have to pick up. But it's not all, and it says an element of fixed cost. We probably want to quantify that, and maybe that would put your mind at rest. The looked after children, similarly, there's an unavoidable element of fixed costs. I think the jump in cost is mainly related to sort of backdated costs that particular year absorbed previous year's costs, and due to the way they came through, we've not allocated them to previous years. So it's maybe that's just fluctuating it a bit. The last question, I probably can't answer this one. The assessment and fieldwork, care management service users. One thing I'll say is that my understanding would be it doesn't always result in a financial cost to the council. So maybe as we're moving forward, reviewing more people's packages, etc. I can only say that from a finance point of view. I'm not 100% sure of the service reality of that, though.
Councillor Syme.
Thanks, Chair. It's just on page 96, with payments to other bodies. For the time I've been a councillor and involved with the children's here and before that, I'm aware of what a lot of these bodies do, the likes of Quarriers and Action for Children and the services they provide. But at the top we've got advocacy with Bernardo's been the provider. And I never recollect ever having any contact or hearing of Bernardo's been involved with children and families. Could we just sort of get a wee bit idea of what they provide?
Yeah, the Bernardo's Here For You team provide advocacy for children and young people who are looked after, so it's independent advocacy, and they also have a project for children and young people who are involved in child protection processes. So that's at an individual level if they need somebody independent to work with them through the negotiations with the various services involved with them.
Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks, Chair. I'm actually on page 107 of 158 here. The premises, and cross-reference that to the ABB for criminal justice. We spent a lot of money doing premises up in Annan, and I don't see them on here. And I'm surprised, and I know what it causes a split in my administration colleagues here, but we still don't have a location for the facility in Upper Nithsdale. That money was set aside, but it's not in here.
So I can't answer that. I need to go back to the service who provided the information to clarify.
Yeah, my understanding is the same as yours, Councillor Ferguson, is that we had identified somewhere in Upper Nithsdale, and we had done the same with Manannan under your chairmanship. I can only assume that that's we have overlooked that in this report. but Sean will take that back to the Criminal Justice Manager and explore that further.
Can I come back in, Chair? Thank you. Yeah, either that or it's not being used yet. But either way, it should still be down as an asset, surely.
Yes, and Sean will take that back to the Criminal Justice Manager.
If there are no further questions, we'll move to the recommendations. Derek?
Thank you, Chairman. I think the additional comment, a number of operational actions, they'll be picked up, but the specific, I believe, was you're going to receive a report outlining the refreshed arrangements for spot block contracts and the associated financial details to a future committee meeting.
With that, can we review and agree the social work services budget? Thank you. We'll move to item 6, which is a refreshed business plan for refreshed business plan for social work services. The report will be presented by Trish Nagel. Trish, do you wish to add anything to this report, or do you simply wish to take questions from members?
Just one point for clarification, Chair, on page 117, the third full paragraph down, which is about the demographic projections for older people. We have updated those figures since the members' seminar on the 16th of June. However, the figures in there are 2010 based, not 2012 based. We do now have the 2012 based figures and will update that. Other than that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Members? Councillor Maitland.
Well, it was just a small question, really, just for the members to think about, I suppose. In the narrative, I think it's on the same page, 117. Yes. Just the penultimate paragraph, penultimate sentence. I sort of feel that it's slightly old-fashioned to talk about allowing people greater control. I would have thought that maybe we should be talking about encouraging self-determination. It's just sort of slightly grates on me, and I don't think it's what we're trying to do, Chairman, just as we move forward in social work services. So I don't know whether that's something that we might, as a committee, possibly alter.
Noted the comments regarding self-determination. At this present political time, very much in the hands of members in terms of what direction of travel you wish to take, okay?
Councillor McKee.
See, these folk is good at English grammar. Oh, a nightmare. Can I ask you a question? It's page 127, self-directed support. I have concerns sometimes that people could be, albeit the support they need has been identified, but the cost of that support may be greater than it would be if we supplied that support. Have we any control over that at all?
My understanding, Councillor, is that we are developing an equivalency model where the budget, an equivalency model, they're the words I've been given. And what that will mean is that people will not be given a higher budget than they would have been allocated otherwise under the self-directed support.
So we have a degree of control over it then at that rate. That's really what I was really wanting to know. That's fine. Thanks very much.
Councillor Maitland.
It's just to say that this is extremely high level. You know, I mean, it really is sort of top area, and I presume that will be shown throughout the year, the individual plans that support it. Is that what we would expect to see?
Yes, Councillor, we did recently do a series of seminars with managers across the service, and the intention is that we would develop specific service area plans to sit below the business plan.
No other questions. Can we move to the recommendations? Can we approve the refreshed sections of the business plan for social work services for 2014-15 as set out in Appendixes 1 and 2? Great, thank you. Item 7 is minutes of the Social Work Services Subcommittee for noting. Can we note? Thank you. Just at this stage, this will in fact be Sean McGleenan's last Social Work Committee meeting, and I believe that Sean wants to say something. I'll probably say something after he's finished. Thank you.
He definitely will say something after I finish. I suppose, Ted, first thing I say, thanks for giving us a minute to speak. Some folk in the room might be surprised to hear me say this, because I know some of you think maybe I talk with a funny accent, but that was a joking laughter. But I do think of myself as a local. My life and my family are here in Dumfries, and Dumfries and Galloway is important to me. I think that social work is crucial to a decent society, and I'm immensely proud that I've had the chance to lead the social work services here for the last 14 months. I want to especially thank you, the members, for giving me this opportunity, and I want to thank our Chief Exec as well. This has been a time of major challenges, developments, opportunities, and you've always heard me say in here, it's also a time of unprecedented change. We have had the publication of the Public Bodies Act, Children and Young Persons Act, Self-Directed Support, and the redesign of criminal justice. And today again, we have heard how we've met the challenge of the budget, and I'd like to give a vote of thanks to all of our budget holders and staff who've worked very hard to achieve this. At the last committee, I presented a report which outlined the actions of inspection agencies where various services have always been assessed constantly as good. Since I presented this report, we have had inspection visits to Stranraer ARC and Hartthorne Road, where again we achieved nothing less than a good grading. In the case of Stranraer ARC, except for one, all the gradings were very good. So I think it's important that I reflect over maybe some of the achievements in the last year. We've improved our budget management that was seen here today. We have successfully implemented SDS. We have opened Hartthorne Road, which is our flagship residential children's unit. We have carried out a major data refresh for Framework I. We have taken social work through our restructuring to make it fit to go into the public bodies world. In December, I presented the first Chief Social Work Officer's report that Dumfries and Galloway Council ever had. And on top of that, one of our students was recognised nationally as a Student of the Year. So I would like to thank the social work staff group who work 24/7 to protect our most vulnerable, because without their commitment, there would be no achievement. However, having said that, there are many challenges ahead for this committee and the new Chief Social Work Officer, and I'd like to wish you all the best for the future. And finally, I would like to assure you that I hand the department over to the new Chief Social Work Officer in a better, fitter state than I inherited. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to address us here today.
I've had limited experience of working with you, Sean, but what I would say actually has been a pleasure. You have been very open and honest when I've asked ridiculous questions, and I really appreciate your input. I certainly consider you as a Doonhamer. You've been here long enough, and I wish you all the best in your retirement or for whatever path you choose to take. So thank you again for all your help and for all the work that you've done in your time with Dumfries and Galloway Council. Councillor Yen.
Thank you, Chair. May I committee to note the achievements read out by Sean, please.
Okay.
Thank you.